Hi and welcome everyone. Many of you know me. My name is Loran from NCA Tutor, and we have two very special guests with us today from Windmill Microlending. Thank you, Anita and Lindsay, for joining us. And we also have Tiffany, who is a blogger for NCA Tutor, and she also runs her own blog for NCA candidates called The Transition. And Tiffany will be moderating for us today, which is very helpful, and also asking some questions that candidates may have. So before I begin and hand it over to Anita, I'll just introduce Lindsay. Lindsay is the intake manager at Windmill Microlending, and her role is to assist applicants through the process and also help them with answering questions about eligibility requirements and all that stuff. And that's why Lindsay's with us today, because she can answer those questions. We also have Anita with us, and Anita is the community relations specialist, and she does all the outreach work for Windmill Microlending. And very excited that we've partnered with Windmill Microlending, because this is a great opportunity for internationally trained lawyers and newcomers to Canada to obtain financing of up to $15,000 that can assist them with the accreditation costs and licensing process in Canada. So without any further ado, Anita, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having us, and you've almost just done most of my job there for me through your introduction. I'm going to quickly share my screen, have a quick presentation we're going to walk through, and then we can open up to some question and answer. Windmill Microlending, we're converting potential into prosperity. So a little about us, our grassroots story is we were founded by Dr. Maria Erickson, who was a Calgary-based clinical psychologist who was really frustrated because she was coming upon a lot of her staff that worked as janitors at the hospital she worked at were internationally trained health professionals. And they weren't able to practice their profession because of obstacles in licensing and accreditation. This is a story that we're all familiar with, you know, the doctors who are cab drivers, or once again, nurses who are janitors. So she got together with a bunch of her friends, all of which were women, and they organized the first 6 loans to support the costs that they would occur in getting the training and the reaccreditation needed for them to start working back in their field. Since then, Windmill has given out over $35 million in loans, and we've supported over 5,000 skilled immigrants and refugees. And we've done this, as Lauren mentioned, by providing microloans of up to $15,000 to internationally trained professionals to pay for their Canadian licensing or training needs to restart or advance a career in Canada. Now, we're a nonprofit charity. We were founded in 2005. We have offices all across Canada. We're accessible everywhere online, and we're government supported. Now, our main focus is really to keep our loans low barrier, easily accessible. And so our eligibility criteria is pretty simple. You must live in Canada, be internationally trained, be a permanent resident, Canadian citizen, provincial nominee, a protected person, or a convention refugee, and have skills or experience related to your career goals in Canada. And if you look over here, the pie chart, 61% of our clients are in the health sector, but really we service everyone: engineers, scientists, if you're in education, finance, lawyer, you can be a truck driver, an esthetician, a doctor, all careers are eligible. Now, what makes us unique from other lending institutes is that all our money is in-house, so you're not going through a bank. Therefore, keep bringing down those barriers that many face. When you go to a financial institute, they prefer people who have a really good credit history, good, strong credit score, stable employment, an income. They should be able to maybe secure the loan with an asset or have a co-signer. When you come to Windmill, we can lend to people who have no or bad credit history, because we understand the fact that if you're a newcomer, you're not going to have credit history. And if you've been underemployed or didn't understand how to navigate our credit system, you may have poor credit history. You could be underemployed, unemployed, living off savings, EI, credit, etc. We don't ask you to secure your loan with any assets or have a co-signer. Our loans are very character-based. Yeah, the loans can be used for a variety of things, up to a 2-year training plan and education, licensing, qualifying exam fees, language courses, qualification assessments, travel expenses that are related to your schooling or to your exams, books, equipment, course material, professional association fees, relocation costs for employment. So you found a job somewhere and now you need to move. Or while you're going to school or while you're preparing for your exams, living allowance, right? So you might have a shortfall in your budget. Professional development, you already have a job, but you're looking to further your career or a career change. So something completely different than what it is that you're doing now. Our terms and conditions for repayment are also very unique. You have a maximum repayment term of 4 to 5 years. Your interest rate is prime plus 1.5. If you're a BC resident, it's just prime. There's no fees or charges at any time. It's an open loan. You can pay it off at any time without any penalty. And additional money can be taken if needed, if you had originally taken less than $15,000. The repayment terms also, say you're taking out $10,000 for a 1-year training program or 1-year schooling program. While you're going to school, you're only paying back your interest, right? So whatever that works out to, a small monthly payment. Once you're finished your year of schooling, after a 90-day grace period, you start making payments back on your principal and your interest. Now, we also have a very special program called the Refugee Loan Program, and it's very unique throughout the country. You pay no interest on your loan. So if those eligible are refugees who have gotten their status within 3 years as like a convention refugee protected person. The interest is generously covered by community donations. Our impact, average income increase is 3.4 times. If you're someone like an engineer or like a lawyer, it can be all the way up to 11 times. Repayment rate is 97%. So 97% of the people who go through our program repay us back. And that's based on the fact that we have a really great support system throughout our loan program. We have given out almost $37 million in approved loans, and that's over 5,300 loans. The whole process is also very simple. It's all done online. Your first step is you go online and you take our eligibility quiz. The eligibility quiz is 4 questions, user-friendly, instant answers, takes less than 1 minute to complete. Once you've done that, you're ready to actually apply. The process takes about half an hour to an hour. There's a checklist of the documentation that you'll need, electronic copies of. And you go ahead, you do your application. Once you've done your application, it goes in-house and you'll be, our intake team will reach out, make an appointment. It's an hour Skype meeting, or I think it might be a Zoom meeting now. It's an hour meeting. And at that time, we talk about who you are, what you've done, what you're looking to do, your application, the success rate of that, and answer any questions you have, and also go over the payment plan, what that would look like. After that, we take the application in-house and you get an answer back within a week or so. And after that, we can actually have funds in your account within 2 weeks of when you apply. So it's a pretty simple process. If at any time you have any questions, our team is always there and very friendly. You can reach them by email, info@teamwindmill.org, toll free 1-855-423-2262. And I'm always available as well by email, anita@teamwindmill.org. And that is the presentation.
Thank you very much, Anita. Thank you. So I've got a few questions, and then perhaps if Tiffany's got some questions, you can pop in anytime as well. But let me kick it off here. Now, when we're talking about eligibility, does it matter how long somebody's been in Canada already? So what qualifies you as a newcomer?
Yeah, great question. And thanks again, Lauren, for hosting us. We're very excited to be here and to hopefully work with more of your students moving forward. So in terms of the eligibility requirement around being an immigrant, like Anita said, sort of the very base level eligibility criteria is that you are in fact an immigrant and that you are internationally trained. We have no time limit on how long you've been in Canada and still being eligible. So you could have come 10 years ago as a permanent resident and now become a Canadian citizen, and you would still be eligible for a loan with Windmill. Alternatively, we also have had folks who have been born in Canada, but then left when they were with their family when they were really young and were trained outside of Canada, and have now come back and still, of course, need to write the NCA exams and make it through the process here in Canada. So I would say if there's any concern or any doubt about your eligibility, please feel free to start with that eligibility quiz or reach out to my team at info@teamwindmill.org, and we'll be happy to go through your case and see if we can, in fact, consider you eligible for our program.
Okay, thank you. Anita, you mentioned that when somebody's still in school, they only have to pay interest payments. What would the equivalent be for an internationally trained lawyer who's going through the NCA process? Because there is no schooling per se. Would it be only interest payments as they're going through the licensing process, or how would that work?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So while they're going through the licensing program, there's certain exam dates. So until they're finished those dates, they would be paying interest. And then once that's completed, they have their 90-day grace period, and then they start making payment back on the rest of it. Okay, great. Because Lindsay's nodding.
Exactly, yeah, just absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. But just to add to that slightly, the maximum sort of interest-only period we can offer is 24 months. So we sort of work generally with learning plans that are 2 years or less, which from my understanding of the process of relicensing as a lawyer, that should, in most cases, fit within the 2-year timeline. We can, of course, be flexible as long as our clients communicate with us. So if you have a case where you unfortunately fail an exam and need to write it again, we can try to restructure your loan with you. Please just communicate that to us. Otherwise, we won't know what's going on and how we can support you. So if you encounter a challenge like that, just reach out to our team. We'll be happy to provide any support that we can, and if it's deemed warranted, we can restructure your loan and provide you some additional months of interest only as you retake your exam. So we do our best to work with each client individually, since we know everyone's going through their own unique experience. But yes, absolutely. For the time that you are working with Lauren at NCA Tutor and writing your exams, you would only be an interest-only payment, or if you're in the refugee loan program, just that minimum monthly payment until you are in fact done your licensing and then hopefully employed in your field and can pay back the principal payments. For sure,
I do notice that a lot of at least the candidates that I work with, they may take longer than 2 years, and the reason for that is because they have to, keep a part-time job or work as a janitor or work in different fields that they're not trained to do. And I think that these loans could possibly help speed up that process, because they may be able to take some time off and just focus on those licensing exams and perhaps finish the process much quicker. So I think it's great. I think 2 years is a very manageable time if they're given some of those resources. So
absolutely, that's what the living allowance portion can be available for, is if you're needing to quit your job to be able to focus on your upcoming exam, we can provide some coverage for living expenses for a short-term period. Absolutely.
I have a follow-up question on the eligibility piece that Lauren asked about. So when you say internationally trained, does that mean someone who was fully licensed in another country? A lot of NCA students are Canadians who go abroad for law school, never actually licensed in the country they went to school in, and then just come back. So would those type of students be eligible for your program?
Great question. So if someone is in fact born in Canada, raised in Canada, did their perhaps undergraduate degree here, and then chose to go abroad for their law school, and then are returning to Canada to relicense here, unfortunately, those folks would not be eligible because they are not an immigrant. There could be folks who were born in Canada, left at a young age with their family and were trained outside of Canada and then come back and still need to go through the NCA process, and those folks would be eligible. So so definitely the internationally trained lawyers group we know is diverse. That does not necessarily mean that they are immigrants. Unfortunately, Windmill is only able to provide resources for immigrants and refugees, and that's because we are quite predominantly funded by Immigrants, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. Our mandate is to serve those who were born outside of Canada primarily. There are lots of comparable resources available to folks who may have more of a credit history already in Canada because they spent their undergrad here, for example. So we're always happy to redirect if we have questions from those folks, but we are looking to serve a fairly niche group of those internationally trained professionals who were born and educated outside of Canada.
I've got another one. So what if a candidate is completed the NCA process, for example? Does that mean they're no longer eligible? They still have to go through a licensing process now in the province, in whichever province they choose, whether it's Ontario, Alberta, whichever province it may be. In Ontario, for example, is $5,500 just the licensing fees and the exams and stuff. So does it matter where they are in the lawyer licensing process?
Great question. The simple answer is no. Clients can come to us at any point in their licensing pathway. The only exception or the only caveat I'll put on that is we do need to see that you do in fact have concrete costs that are upcoming. So I would generally recommend that we'd want to see that someone has had their NCA assessment done and know what their next step is. If they have not yet done that and aren't quite sure what their next step is, then it's hard for us to confirm that, yes, in fact, you do need these funds. So I would be expecting more examples like you provided, Lauren, of folks who are partway through the process and just need a little bit of extra infusion of funds to make it across the finish line, and absolutely we can help with that. If they've already gone through the NCA process and are needing to write the bar in a certain province, we can absolutely provide funds for that. Or as Anita kind of alluded to, if someone is already practicing as a lawyer in Ontario and for whatever reason decides to relocate to Alberta, for example, and there's costs associated with becoming licensed to practice in Alberta, we can also provide funds for that sort of relocation.
Great, thank you.
I have a question on sort of after the loan. So does this have any impact on Canadian credit or help build newcomers to Canada Canadian credit going forward?
Absolutely, and that's a big part of the benefit of our program is that it, aside from other options that we know that newcomers often take, which is to borrow funds from family back home or their friends here in Canada, which can be a great option, and we understand why folks do that. However, borrowing money from friends or family does not help you build your credit history in Canada, which will help to serve you later in your life in Canada in terms of looking to buy your first home, for example. So absolutely, the Windmill program is designed to have newcomer-friendly terms while you're in the loan program with us, and that we are here to help support you, make your payments consistently, build your credit history in Canada to set you off on the right foot in terms of your credit moving forward in Canada.
I know it's slightly off topic, but I know some people come from jurisdictions where they don't have a concept of credit history. In France, for example, it doesn't mean anything. There's no such thing as credit history. Could you just explain what that means for some of the newcomers? What does it mean to build a credit history? Why is that useful?
Sure, that's a great question. And like you said, we're quite aware that lots of folks are coming to Canada from different cultural backgrounds or different countries that don't have the same kind of credit system that we have in Canada. So essentially, the credit system is primarily sort of run through Canadian financial institutions, allowing you access to money that you don't necessarily have right at that moment, kind of like a credit card or like taking a loan from someone like Windmill. You don't have those funds to pay for your own licensing fees right away, but we can sort of front it to you and you can slowly pay it back. The reason why you'd want to start building your credit history in your new country is to be able to access more types of credit later in your life. So a small loan from Windmill is a great first step, or having, you know, a credit card with a safe limit of $1,000, which means you hopefully wouldn't be overspending. If you make your consistent monthly payments on that, you're demonstrating to other potential lenders in the future that you can sort of make good on the promises that you make back to them around repaying the funds that you've borrowed. So it's kind of just demonstrating your good payment behavior so that you can graduate from a $1,000 credit card or a $15,000 Windmill microloan up to taking a mortgage for, I don't even want to guess what the mortgage
where you are.
in different places in Canada, but if you're in Toronto, it's you know, it's hard to buy a first home. So it's sort of helping you build those steps towards taking a larger form of credit from a bank, and so you're proving that you are worthy of being able to access those future funds.
I've got another question, Anita. I know you touched on this and you had a slide in your presentation about eligible expenses, but can we go into that in a little more detail? What sort of things specific to lawyers going through a licensing process? What sort of expenses? For example, can they take a prep course, or does it have to be a university accredited course? And what sorts of other things can they use these loans towards?
Yeah, they can take a prep course is eligible. We're always, when it comes down to these loans, we're just conscious that whatever institute you're tying yourself into is a credible institute, right? So, I mean, we do look at that somewhat, but a prep course, the fees associated around writing the exam, the time, and like I said, living allowance and living costs can also come into this. So if they're taking time off, like you said, a lot of them work, and now they can cut back on their work so they can actually concentrate on this, and they have shortfalls within their budget. And I mean, we know a lot of people also struggle with daycare, you know, stuff like that. Those types of expenses can also be part of this. So there's a lot of flexibility around what those costs, and everybody has a specific kind of like a unique situation. So I do highly recommend giving Lindsay's team a call and kind of like going through and seeing, you know, working out a budget, and like, these are my expenses, these are my costs that I would need to help be covered. And actually just even reaching out to them beforehand to ask questions on the eligibility, save you time. And Lindsay, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, that was great. The only other thing that some folks might need, especially now with things moving a bit more online, is if you need a laptop or something else like that to be able to support your learning, to either do prep courses with Lauren from afar, or to be able to write your exams virtually, we can usually consider the cost of a laptop as well. But generally, I would sort of say, if it's going to support you in the achievement of your license, it doesn't hurt to include it on your application. Just be mindful that that doesn't guarantee you will be approved for all the funds that you're requesting. When you have your coaching session with your success coach, like Anita mentioned, they'll go through all of that with each client to ensure that the amount that we're approving makes sense for the client. But there's absolutely no harm in including it. We can always have a discussion around it and hopefully provide you what you need.
Okay, wonderful. Another question. I've applied for a loan. I've set out all my costs, and then I failed 3 of my exams, and now I have to resit those exams and possibly get private tutoring, or I need help, and I haven't factored that into my application. What can I apply for an additional loan? How does that work?
Oh, you put the answer right in the question. Yes, absolutely. So as Anita sort of mentioned, we can provide funds to an individual up to $15,000 in total. That doesn't have to be at one time. So say your initial application was for $5,000 for a prep course and an exam, and unfortunately you fail that exam, you would be able to apply for additional funds from Windmill to fund perhaps another round of prep courses and another sit of that exam. Unfortunately, if you do hit the sort of $15,000 cap, we would not be able to lend any additional funds until one of your loans or the entirety of your loan is paid off with us. We have yet to experience that with many professions. With some where they're very high cost, like dentists, that does happen. We would try to work with some of our other sort of competitors. Actually, sometimes we work with our competitors to ensure that a client can achieve their license. So if we refer to another organization that provides a microloan, or of course, depending on how long the person has been in Canada and what their credit now is, with the help of building it up with a windmill loan, the client might be able to secure some extra funds from their bank if need be. But absolutely, if you encounter those barriers, those challenges, we're here to help, not just in terms of cheering the client on, but also in terms of doing what we can to restructure the first loan if needed, and to consider an application for an additional loan if more funds are needed.
Thank you. Question, going off to a different topic now. You spoke about having a credible prep course for that to be approved. What can you tell candidates about credible credit lending companies and what to watch out for? Because there are people lending to new immigrants and perhaps giving predatory lending practices. What should they watch out for when trying to apply for a loan?
Absolutely. A big one would be the interest rate. So often what happens is there's some credit lending facilities that can provide funds instantly or within 24 hours. But if you read the fine print, the interest rate can be upwards of 20%, which is much higher than a credit card, and pretty much unreasonable to try to repay. So I'd watch out for language that says instant or get funds immediately, like that kind of language, as well as, of course, the interest rate. As Anita mentioned, our interest rate for most of the country is the RBC prime rate plus 1.5%. Currently, as of September 1st, that is 3.95%, which is quite low, quite newcomer friendly. Take a look at your credit cards, for example. You might find that your credit card interest rate is around 10 to 15%. And that's, of course, why, just to link back to an earlier question, making those monthly payments and building that good credit history in Canada is important. If you miss a credit card payment and the interest rate is 15%, you're then owing more than what you actually borrowed, which just isn't great for your own budget management either. So in terms of considering options that are available to you for funding your relicensing as a lawyer, absolutely, regardless of how long you've been in Canada, before you even come to us, I would still recommend talking to your bank and seeing what they can offer you. That way, when you come to us, you have something to compare to. We're not here to necessarily give everybody who wants a loan a loan. We want our clients to take the best option for them. And in some cases, if you're a Canadian citizen and you've been here for quite a while, your bank might be able to offer you something that is better than what we can offer. And that's what we want for you, to be able to succeed in your career with the most affordable financing option. So in terms of considering your options, definitely check with your bank. Definitely take a look at our website or other community micro-lending organizations, and avoid those sort of instant loans or anything that has the language of being too quick, too good
to be true.
Right, it's too good to be true. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Like if it sounds like it's too good to be true, it probably is, unfortunately. So take a look at that, and always the interest rate as well. Don't agree to anything until you know what the interest rate is. And that is a big part of what we do with our clients as well. So once your loan has been approved, you'll have a conversation with one of our loan managers to make sure that you understand the interest rate that your loan is approved at, how long you have to repay your loan, and all of those other factors, just to make sure that it's a great learning opportunity for you as a client, and that we're all on the same page with what the expectations are. And unfortunately, often those more suspicious credit lending institutions don't provide that little bit of financial literacy, or even explain what the terms and conditions are. So definitely for that as well.
I'd also like to just kind of jump in there and say service charges. There, a lot of times there's a lot of hidden service charges, right? So like with us, if it's an open loan, you can pay back at any time. You can make chunk payments. You know, we don't charge you extra, but a lot of people, so that fine print is something to be very careful of.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay.
I have
Tiffany?
a follow-up question on the interest rate. So there's a fairly large NCA community in British Columbia. A lot of people end up in British Columbia. They think they want a license there. They start their NCA process there. But then they end up getting a job in another province. They come to Toronto, or they go to any other province to sort of actually do their bar exam or take up an articling job. What happens to their loan? So if they start the loan in BC where the rate is prime, upon moving, does their rate then change to the prime plus 1.3% or whatever your sort of additional on top is?
Yeah, great question. So the current prime rate offer for residents of BC, how we sort of manage that is you just have to be living in BC at the time of your loan application. So if you do choose to move to end up relicensing in a different province, or if you get a job offer in a different province and you move, your loan is not affected.
Wonderful. I can vouch for the efficiency of the team at Windmill. You know, we've been in contact just for a few weeks, and they're super responsive. And I know already one of our students is working with Lindsay on getting a loan approved, and so the process is very efficient with them, and they're very easy and pleasant to work with. So I'm super happy that we met and that we had the opportunity to present this to people, because I think it's really going to assist a lot of people, especially now in difficult financial times that a lot of people are facing. I think that these loans could be helpful. And so thank you very much for setting aside some time to speak to us and to give over the presentation. We're going to provide links to the websites. We'll also provide more information on our own website on how you can get in touch and how you can apply for these loans. And we'll be happy to possibly do another session like this in the future if that's something that candidates want. So I think we're open to that. So at least I am. Okay, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. And if you're watching this and you're preparing for exams, good luck with your studies.
Yes, good luck. Thank you so much. It was great meeting you.
Thank you.